Ayan, hello.
Hello, magandang hapon.
Magandang hapon po sa inyo. Kumusta? Welcome back sa ating, ikaw nagbibilang, ilang episode, Father Harvey?
Episode 11.
Wow, naka-11 na. Okay,
11.
welcome po sa ating 11 episode ng Tarano Ba Usap, and a very interesting one, and I hope lahat ng kabataan ay nakapanood o nag-share una sa lahat ang ating live dahil interesting ang usapan natin ngayon. Anong pag-uusapan natin on this episode?
Pag-uusapan natin ngayong araw na ito ay usapang kabataan. Alamin natin kung ano ang estado at ano ba ang mga related mental concerns ng mga kabataan at kung paano ba ito mga concern na ito ay may a-address natin. So,
okay.
Yan, Father.
Very good. And bagay na bagay kasi ang mag-host nitong conversation na ito ay tatlong kabataan. Isang
Yes, Father.
Isang batang doktor na millennial, I guess. Mamaya malalaman natin. Isang batang pare na millennial, I guess. Millennial pa rin, no?
Millennial.
Oo. At isang millennial but from the first millennium. Oo. Okay. So bago makalimutan ho, una sa lahat, i-share nyo agad-agad itong ating bagong episode. Paano i-share ito, Father Harvey? How can they share?
Una sa lahat, i-click natin ang share button sa baba. Kapag na-click na natin ang share button, pipindutin natin, pipiliin natin ang watch party. So pag nakapag-watch party na tayo at nagsisimula na ma-invite natin ang mga kasama natin, mga kaibigan natin sa Facebook, i-copy din natin yung link, no? I-share natin isa-isa sa mga kaibigan natin at siguraduhin natin na lalo na yung mga kabataan, yung mga anak ninyo, mga apo ninyo, mga pamangkin ninyo na interesado ninyong ibahagi yung ating paksa ngayong araw na ito tungkol sa mga kabataan at ang mental health, no? Huwag niyo kalimutan na i-share. So, Father, kapag siyempre sa mga parishioner natin dito sa Diocese of Novaliches, huwag po niyong kalimutan na ilagay sa comment section kung saan kayong parokya nabibilong at anong lugar po dito sa Novaliches.
Correct. Kung ikaw ay taga sa ibang lugar ng Pilipinas, sabihin nyo rin kung saan kayo. O di kaya saan parte ng mundo. Kasi tulad nito, meron na-flash ako. Hello po from California, USA. Anong pangalan nun? Si Vilma. Vilma, thank you. Si Afa is from Taiwan. Alright. Hello, welcome po. Teka, meron pa dito from Australia naman, si Paz. Hello, good afternoon po from Australia. Alright. From Bulacan naman, ito.
From Bulacan, si Paz.
Teka. Nawala yung Bulacan. Ito muna, yung London. Si
Fermina Camia.
Fermina. Ito naman, ang Bulacan. Ayan.
Ayan, mula sa Bulacan, si Lex Evangelista.
Ito naman, from
Palawan, Puerto Princesa, si Leia Pongyan.
Okay, ito naman.
Si Wilma Pahe from Palmera, Camarin. Good afternoon po.
Yan, good afternoon po. At yes, sige, ituloy ninyo. Kwento nyo kung taga-saan po kayo. We are interested. Oh, another one from London.
Oh, another one from London, si Jomir Manlangit Fajardo. Hello po dyan.
Hello po. From Hong Kong, ito naman,
From Hong Kong.
Malimpindot. Teka, hanapin natin yung Hong Kong. Yan, ayan. Hello, Hong Kong.
Si Sue Makalinaw. Yan, hello, Sue.
Hello, Canada.
Hello from Canada, Miles De Vega, Marshales. Yan, hello po.
Hello from Canada, uli.
From Canada also, Celi Di Carlos.
Hello, Cavite.
From Cavite, Ronalyn Casibang. Hello po.
Magpatalo ba ang Rojas City? No, Southern Leyte pala ito.
Southern Leyte. Resty Carolino. Yan. Hello po.
Magpatalo naman ito.
Mga tiga Bukidnon. Si Joseph Adorable. Yan.
Ito yung matindi.
Ay, syempre po,
Woo!
Iti.
Siyempre.
No, Tita Gina Jimenez. Hello po, Tita.
Barangay Commonwealth. Go, go, go.
Barangay
Ito
Commonwealth.
naman, from Austria.
From Austria, Rosela Enarsao.
Wow. Ito naman pa, si Sa.
From Zambales, Noel Pabalete. Yan.
Right. So, bagong introduce po ang ating guest speaker for today. Di naman speaker, parang talumpati ito. Itong ang ating kakwentuha for today, kakwentuhan for this afternoon. Let me also remind you that we are also live in YouTube. So, we are live in Facebook ng Diocese, ng Taranova Usap, ng Almusalita, at ng mga parokya ng Novaliches, but we are also live in YouTube. So, Father, sino po ang ating kasama natin ngayon? Bagay na bagay sa usapang kabataan.
Yan. Ang makakasama po natin ngayong hapon na ito ay isang Filipino nurse at medical doctor at isang advocate ng mental health. Siya po ay graduate ng nursing at ng Doctor of Medicine sa UST, no? Mga step. At obtain yung master's degree niya sa University of the Philippines at marami po siyang mga award na natanggap. Pero higit sa lahat, ang pinaka-importante dyan ay isa siyang kabataan na tumutulong sa mga kabataan din. Kaya wag na natin patagalin. Let us all welcome ang national, parang chairperson yata ito, ng Youth for Mental Health Coalition. Walang iba kundi si Doc RJ Nagit. Yan.
Ayan, pasok. Hello, Doc. Welcome. Welcome back.
Hapon po sa lahat. Hello, Father Luciano, Father Harves, at sa lahat po nang nanonood via YouTube at Facebook.
Doc, ay doctor ka of medicine. In what particular field? Are you a psychiatrist?
Ngayon po, general practitioner po ako, pero most of my work deals with mental health at community development at public health. So, correct ko lang po si Father Harves, hindi pa po ako gumraduate ng master. So, nag-take up pa lang.
Nag-take up pa lang. I-claim na natin.
So, general medicine ang field mo ngayon.
Apo.
Bakit ang interest mo ay napunta sa mental health, Doc?
Nagsimula po siya nung estudyante pa lang ako ng medicine. So, nagkaroon ng chance na involved po kami doon sa pagpasa ng Philippine Mental Health Law way back 2018. Pero yung campaign niya, nag-start siya ng 2016 afterwards. No? So, yun po. Doon nakilala talaga namin yung iba't ibang mga people with mental health conditions. Narinig yung storya nila at minsan kasi hindi mo talaga mapigilan na go down, no, for us to really address yung mental health situation in the country dahil po doon.
Doc, may question ako. Yung mga kabataan, particularly, sabihin natin na sila isa sa mga age group kung saan malakas yung mga mental health issues. Now, my question is, are they particularly weak or are we, yung older generation, particularly plastic na hindi inaamin? Kasi somehow I have the feeling na our young people are not weak as we talk about. In fact, this is one of the biggest realization, no, during this yung frontliners, karamihan ng frontliners are millennials. And so these are the doctors, the nurses fighting COVID in the front. So there is this conception that millennials is a weak generation. But I have this feeling na baka we are a plastic generation na tinatago yung mental problems. From your medical point of view, what are your comments about this? Are the youth particularly weak?
Well, I wouldn't say that. Kasi po ngayon, alam naman natin na we're made of the same biology, no? Even before, until now. Pero siguro nagkakataon na iba yung conditions natin ngayon. So pag pinag-usapan naman po natin yung mental health, lagi siyang combination of the biological, psychological, and even the social factors. At ngayon po, syempre, yung kinakaharap ng kabataan, hindi rin biro, di ba? Nandiyan yung social media, nasa isang pandemya tayo ngayon. nandyan yung mga iba-ibang mga issues surrounding us. So, syempre, yung mga ganito, mas mataas yung toll nila in terms of mental health ng mga kabataan. And for young people to actually, kumbaga, have a positive mental well-being ngayon, sa tingin ko malaking feat na yun for us kasi nga iba hindi talaga biro yung yung pinagdadaanan po ng mga kabataan, and of course lalo na sa mga younger generations ngayon, especially yung mga nasa adolescence pa, no, kasi dagdag pa yan na as they are forming their identities ay nandito yung mga iba't ibang mga threats na ito, so dagdag pa yan na ano sa kanila. So siguro ano rin siya, factor rin po dito yung hindi lang din aware yung mga tao before, like for example nagsimula lang yung conversations na maingay about mental health 2 years ago. So, isa rin po yan sa mga reasons kung baka siguro nakikita natin may spike, no? Baka hindi rin natin talaga siya na-diagnose lang dati.
I have also this feeling that maybe yung virtual reality ngayong panahon ng particularly ngayong panahon ng pandemya kung saan everything becomes virtual can be a source of special stress. This was my feeling kahapon, for example, after several Zoom meetings and talks. Parang from the medical point of view, is it an added pressure to be seated in front of the computer and minus yung face-to-face interaction? Does it add to the pressure? Does it add to the conditions prone to become mental health issue?
Siguro po, actually, malaki po talaga yung factor, no, yung transition natin. At yung shift kasi mabilis, di ba? Parang we didn't really prepare for the online setup agad-agad. So we were forced into this situation. And sa tingin ko, with the use of online platforms ngayon, mas marami yung stimuli that needs to be processed. So dati, parang kailangan mo lang tumingin sa isang tao pag nagsasalita siya. Pero ngayon, with for example, mag-Zoom call tayo, tapos napakaraming mga panels dyan, pag nagsasalita tayo or nagkakaroon tayo ng meeting, mas marami tayong kailangan i-process. That's why siguro, rin siya, mas exhausting rin siya compared to the face-to-face conversations before. And syempre, nandiyan rin siguro yung bilis ng information na papasok sa'yo di ba? With the use of social media, anytime pwede kang pasukan ng negative news or negative na comments, di ba? So lahat ng yan ay nakakadagdag po. And siguro, nandiyan rin yung loss of social support, no? Kasi dati malaya tayo nakakalabas, no, with our friends, with our family members. Pero ngayon, mag-isa na lang tayo. So mas mahirap talaga magbigay ng support kahit na online. Although we will still kumbaga encourage people na mag-maintain ng social connections kahit online, hindi pa rin siya pamalit doon sa dati nakakapagkwentuhan tayo sa ibang mga tao.
Yes. In fact, I was thinking, today I was thinking what kind of questions I wanted to ask, and isa sa mga bagay na naisip ko, kamusta kaya mga relasyon ng mga magjowa ngayong panahon ng pandemya, Ang hirap kaya, I mean, when your love relationship, your barkada, your yung mga ka-school mo, lahat ng support system mo ay unavailable, How to cope with that? And without going into depression. Kasi maraming, kami naman, siguro kayo din on the medical field, kami naman on the religious sector, we are getting a lot of cases of suicide, people with depression, we are getting a lot of people really broken. Kumbaga, itong pandemya nito is breaking people into pieces, So, how to help in that reality when your real world, your friends, your boyfriend or your girlfriend, your barkada, when everything is unavailable, how to still try to have a healthy mental and physical and spiritual,
Dun sa paano magme-maintain ng jowa, baka hindi ako maka-comment doon kasi wala din ako jowa.
Wala kang jowa.
Wala. Pero yung siguro sa maintaining social connections with other people, syempre nandiyan po yung online platforms natin. Pero syempre alam ko sa ibang mga tao nakakapagod rin yung online platforms di ba? Sabi ko nga po kanina, ang daming mga issues that is associated with it. At yung nakakalungkot pa dito is yung online classes mo, ginagawa rin siya sa sa same applications, no? So parang hindi rin siya nakakatulong in terms of easing yung day mo, for example, kasi nawawala na rin yung ano natin social cues natin between work and rest. So yun nga, kung ano yung applications na ginagamit natin online, ginagamit natin siya for multiple uses, no? So ako yung advice ko to also explore yung ibang mga platforms, no? So syempre nandiyan pa rin yung text, nandiyan pa rin yung call, tapos nandiyan pa rin yung mga specific platforms na para lang sa pag-uusap, para hindi naghalo-halo yung ito. Pero sabi nga nila, you have to also be mindful on how you use these kinds of platforms because it can be exhausting. So yung usual recommendation nila is around 10 minutes of conversation, tapos regular na lang siya. So hindi po siya yung dapat tumatagal kasi pag tumatagal, mas ano talaga siya, mas nakakapagod for the individual.
Working with the youth, kagaya ng sinabi mo kanina, ang nag-push sa iyo yung experience din na pinapakinggan yung mga mental concerns and issues ng mga kabataan. Can you give us ano ba ang mga pinaka parang highlight, ano bang mga mental concerns or issues na alam ba depression ba, anxiety, ano ba ang mga popular sa mga kabataan, especially now na pandemic?
Siguro po pag pinag-usapan natin yung mental health, hindi lang siya pwedeng i-confine doon sa mga may diagnosis na. Kasi majority naman ng mga kabataan ngayon, syempre sila yung nakaka-experience ng some form of distress, pero hindi pa rin sila classified as a mental health disorder. Pero syempre sa mga kabataan, usual naman yung anxiety, depression, mga ganyan. Pero yung mga concerns siguro na gusto nating ipunto na meron tayong control rin in terms of managing them is number one, yung sa online classes, di ba? So, ngayon, marami akong narinig sa mga kabataan na hindi rin, kumbaga, yung deadlines nila, hindi masyadong maganda yung spacing. So, parang nagsasabay-sabay yung mga deadlines. And sometimes yung platform itself, no, minsan nahihirapan din sila with regard to internet connectivity. And pangalawa siguro is yung expectations. Hindi ko alam, Father, kung napapansin niyo ito, pero in the past few months na nakakausap na, meron pa tendency for them to set expectations for themselves na napakataas. And sometimes, pag hindi nila na-meet yung expectations na yan, it leads to some sense of frustration on their end. So, mga ganun, kailangan din natin i-proseso siguro with young people. And pangatlo siguro ay yung pag-manage ng kanilang emotions. And I worry a lot because ngayong nasa social media tayo, di ba para tayong yung very limited yung expression natin of emotions. And alam naman natin na may mga complex emotions tayo. Pwede ka maging masaya, pero at the same time parang frustrated ka rin, di ba? May mga ganung mga situations. And I feel na with the social media, parang nagiging focus lang tayo na haha, lol, heart lang yung mga reactions natin. So we don't get to practice expressing our emotions. No? At ngayon pa, wala kang makausap sa bahay or wala kang kasamang kapwa kabataan. Kasi, di ba, parang natututo rin tayo based on how others behave. So, yung socialization ba, nawawala din po ngayon. So, isa yan sa mga posibleng concerns na mag-arise because of the pandemic.
Doc, may question dito from Jerlyn. Father Harps, can you read it please?
Mula kay Jerlyn, may nababasa tayo sa FB na dahil sa modules, mga kabataan nagsusuicide dahil nahirapan. Bakit ganun ba kaliit ang coping mechanism ng mga kabataan ngayon?
Pag pinag-usapan po kasi natin yung suicide, it's very complex. No? So hindi lang po siya dahil sa isang module, it's usually a combination of biological and even psychological vulnerabilities. At usually yung isa sa mga contributors sa suicide ay pag wala na sila nakikita ang solution to their problems aside from killing themselves. So trigger warning na lang rin po sa mga nanonood po ngayon na posibleng mabigat yung maramdaman nila habang pinag-usapan natin yung mga issue na ito. Siguro, pwede na lang po kayong mag-PM sa akin mamaya o kaya you can also comment below para at least ma-refer po namin kayo to some services. Pero yun nga po, pag pinag-usapan natin yung module, iba-iba po yung, pag pinag-usapan natin yung suicide, iba-iba yung contributors dyan. At syempre, lahat ng mga makaka-address ng mga concerns na yan, yung mga issues na nag-a-arise, ay makakatulong rin talaga in terms of suicide prevention. Pero yun, parang it's also a call siguro sa education system natin na kailangan talaga natin i-reframe how we deliver education, tignan kung ano yung mga expectations na siniset natin sa mga bata kasi pag masyadong mataas yung expectation sa mga bata tapos hindi sila maka-keep up because of various issues, no? So, ano rin po yan, pwedeng makakontribute sa kanila.
Doc, there is a question here. Hello po, Father Luciano, Father Harvey, and Doc RJ. Good afternoon po. Concern lang po ako, one of your top fans, Grace Lobusta, her 3 brothers died from suicide. Can we ask if what is the reason? Is there any, sabihin natin, congenital inclination to suicide? Is it their social environment? Is it there na tulad ng ibang sakit na pwede mahawaan yung depression and suicide?
Ano po siya talaga, combination, so we can't pinpoint a specific cause. Pero syempre, sa biological naman po, merong mga studies na nagsasabi na merong certain genetic vulnerability. No? So kunwari yung parents mo or someone in the family, merong vulnerability na binibigay. But it's not automatic na kunwari yung tatay mo or parents mo, meron sila, mag-suicide na rin yung anak nila. So it's also dependent on how we protect or how we make sure na mapaprevent yung ganong occurrence dun sa next generation. Siyempre, kung hindi rin ganun kaganda yung coping mechanisms ng mga individuals, and usually pag nasa isang family tayo, di ba, we share yung mga practices natin, somehow we share also the attitude and personality natin. So, pag kunwari may ganung sa family, then probably posibleng hindi rin natin na ma-maximize yung mga coping mechanisms natin. Pero social factors is also a very big cause, no? Actually, kung titignan po natin yung mga data natin, yung suicide cases are also correlated with recessions. And right now, we're in a recession sa Philippines. So, we can actually expect na tataas talaga yung cases natin. Meron rin talagang mga for example, socio-economic na mga challenges, no? If you would look at yung mga global statistics natin, yung mga nasa low to middle income countries, sila rin yung usually mataas yung suicide case, no? Isa yan sa mga concerns ko kasi it might actually affect kung paano tayo nagbibigay ng services, kung paano tayo nagkakaroon ng community-based interventions na magpe-prevent sa kanila from doing those. Pero I wouldn't commit to a specific cause kung bakit po nagkakaroon ng suicide.
There is a comment that I think can give us ground to talk about how the parents can help. What is the support system na yung mga adults, especially the parents, can give. Sabi ni Grace, me as a mother, I acknowledge the ups and downs of my children sa kanilang grade.
Opo. Actually, magandang practice po yan kasi minsan, pag kunwari mataas yung expectation sa mga anak natin, hindi nila nalalabas yung totoong nararamdaman nila. No? And that's very important, especially kung mental health po yung pag-usapan natin. Dapat children should be in a safe environment na nakakapaglabas sila ng emotions nila, both positive and negative. No? Kasi minsan, yung mga bata na naririnig ko, parang they only share yung mga bagay sa tingin nila would please their parents. No? So, isa po yan kailangan natin i-highlight na bukas yung mga parents na pakikinig sa mga anak nila. And of course, addressing yung mga needs po nila. So, isa rin po yan.
Isa sa mga laging pinag-uusapan dito is yung acceptance that mental health is part of our health like any other aspect of our health. Ngayon, maraming mga adults look at it as a taboo and therefore yung anak ko hindi po pwedeng ipatingin sa psychiatrist kasi hindi sira ulo. Parang gano'n na that's something that we very often we listen as a priest when we have a case for example na talagang halata na kailangan magpatingin siya sa isang professional because it's not a spiritual problem. So kailangan go to a psychologist, a psychiatrist. Very often the reaction of the adults will be hindi siya sira ulo. From your being a young doctor, can you give us some background of why mental health is part of health, is part of medicine, and it's not just something na totally taboo, or is not something na kalimutan mo lang, or i-pray mo na lang yan, or ang arte-arte mo na lang dyan, mawawala yan? Why is mental health so important in our whole system?
Well, important siya because it basically affects every aspect of our lives, no? It can affect kung paano tayo nag-function sa school, kung paano tayo nag-function sa trabaho, kung paano tayo kumikita, no? It's also affected by our mental well-being and how we relate to other people, no? So, isa yan sa mga kailangan po natin maintindihan na when we invest in our mental health, na natutugunan natin yung iba't ibang mga issues na yan. And ngayon po actually may mga debates in terms of saying that mental health is the same as physical health. Kasi parang may mga grupo na nagsasabi, well, this is debate na nasa international community. Sinasabi nila na when we actually say that, parang kumbaga na-water down yung gravity ng mental health as a topic. Because yun nga, kunwari, meron kang diabetes o kaya high blood, meron kang mapipinpoint na biological cause. And it can be cured by medications or even lifestyle changes ng kaunti. Pero definitely may parang specific na treatment. Pero pag po kasi, nandiyan yung, of course, nandiyan yung biological na reasons, pero yung relationships natin with other people, tsaka yung social factors na sinasabi natin kanina, also contribute to it. So, kailangan natin siya tignan in that kind of perspective para alam din natin kung paano tayo tutugon. Kasi hindi naman pwede na medications lang yung sagot po natin sa mental health. Nandiyan rin dapat yung paano natin i-structure yung family life, no? Paano natin mapapalalim yung even religious values, di ba? And spirituality, those are also very important for some people in terms of their mental well-being. So, yung mga ganun po, kailangan may holistic understanding tayo para holistic rin yung intervention po natin. Pero yun nga po, isa yan sa mga gusto nating basaging stigma na pag kunwari may mental health condition ka, hindi ka na mag-function o kaya mahirap ka katrabaho. Usually, lang yon pag hindi natin natugunan, hindi tayo nakapagbigay services sa kanya, hindi tayo nakapagbigay ng gamot, hindi natin siya na-refer sa isang professional. And the more na hindi po natin na-acknowledge ito, posibleng lumala yung mental health problem. Tulad ng ibang mga sakit, di ba? Pag hindi natin natugunan sa simula pa lang, pwedeng maging mas debilitating ito. At minsan, yun rin yung dahilan kung bakit nagkakastigma Kasi parang dahil na hindi na-treat yung condition, nagiging violent. Masakit sila, mawala sila. So, naging cycle lang po siya later on.
Perhaps may question dito si Joseph.
May question si Joseph. Can social media be a healthy substitute to personal interaction of persons, which is difficult at this time?
Yes, it can be a substitute, pero I wouldn't say na it's kumbaga parang siya yung pinaka-best na way of communicating with other people. Kasi nothing beats face-to-face pa rin di ba? Pero syempre, kung ito lang yung meron tayo, then we have to maximize it po, no? For some people, yung kagandahan siguro ng social media is that yung network of support, hindi na lang siya dun sa nasa paligid mo. I know, and we've been running programs related to online support, especially for young people. At malaking bagay na kahit hindi sila magkakakilala, mas nakakapaglabas sila ng saloobin nila doon. No? So, of course, this is guided by mga facilitators namin. Pero yung bang meron silang community outside of their immediate circles ay malaking bagay. Especially nasa bahay sila because the home is not always a safe space for everyone. No? Merong mga cases na naabuso sila or parang yung hindi lang makalabas ng feelings ng tao. Hindi sila malaking bagay po yan.
There is another question dito, Doc. Sana yung mga teachers hindi masyadong stricto with their deadlines of submission sa mga answers. Example, pag hindi ka umabot sa time, ayaw na tanggapin ng teacher. Sana may consideration naman. How about, I haven't been in touch with those who are having online classes. So wala akong masyadong feedback ng mga estudyante, pati ng mga parents at saka ng mga teachers, no? How is it the level of stress? Yung narinig po nating several times, Father Harvey, is yung mga teachers. So yung mga teachers mukhang talagang sasabog na umpisa pala So they are really under a lot of stress. But we obviously we are hearing a lot of students too, no? So anong advice mo in both sides to students, parents and teachers when it comes to online classes?
Sa tingin ko po, dito talaga pumapasok yung dialogue, no? Kailangan mag-usap yung parents, yung teachers, at saka yung estudyante because lahat naman sila ay nag-adjust sa online classes, no? So hindi natin pwedeng i-paint na kasi dahil sa teachers kaya nasa-stress ang mga estudyante or dahil sa mga estudyante na ayaw mag-perform. Kasi minsan narinig ko yan parang tamad raw yung estudyante o kaya parang hindi talaga siya nag-perform kaya bumabagsak. Or even minsan nasisisi rin yung parents kasi hindi raw natututukan yung anak. So we have to kumbaga bridge all of these concerns together. At isa po yan sa mga tinatry namin gawin in my other organization na magkaroon talaga ng space for dialogue, no? Kung kaya nating i-negotiate, no, ano yung level of subjects na kailangan i-share sa mga bata and how to make education relevant to their current context. Kasi nga, I think ngayon, challenge talaga ng mga teachers is on how to motivate students to really appreciate yung lessons. Kasi as a student rin po, parang mahirap rin siya na for me na mag-aral with everything that is happening around. Buti na lang yung course ko is community development. So, madali siyang i-relate to everything na nakapaligid sa atin. Pero imagine na lang, for example, yung mga nasa liberal arts, for example, yung mga nasa literature yung course. Diba? Parang hirap po i-connect yan. So, siguro kailangan din natin magkaroon ng recalibration in terms of how we deliver education. And what should the goal of education be? Diba? Parang yung goal lang ba natin is to produce professionals, is to produce the next batch of employees and workers. So, siguro, mag-usap tayo how to kumbaga make education relevant to us as individuals and as humans. Lalo na ngayong lahat tayo ay nahihirapan with the pandemic.
Siguro divide natin yung katawan at kaluluwa. So yung katawan kay Father, kay Doc at yung kaluluwa kay Father. So kung yung mga kabataan ay kailangan mag-develop ng mechanism how to handle stress, that obviously it's very strong for all of us, but we are talking about the youth. So relationships, studies, work, lack of work, unemployment, lahat po yun, a lot of stress, being together in the family, very nice, the family together, but sometimes too much together, stress pa yun. So having all that, what habits of the body, for Doc, what habits of the spirit will help to fight stress? What food, what exercise, what are the activities that will help the body control our stress level and also our spiritual life bilang kabataan? Anong makakatulong so that we can in the realm of our control, what we can do to at least to have stress under control? So Dog muna.
Yeah, well, of course, in terms of physical health po, syempre nandiyan yung exercise. I cannot overemphasize that because kahit na sinasabi natin kanina na hindi same ang physical to mental health, malaki pa rin yung contribution ng exercise to our mental well-being and vice versa. Syempre nandiyan yung well, the recommendations usually are 30 to 45 minutes of moderate to intense physical exercise. Tapos syempre nandiyan rin po yung sleep, no? Kasi alam ko isa yan sa mga challenges ng mga people ngayon usual recommendation po dyan is 7 to 8 hours of sleep a day. And kung hindi siya ma-meet because of work or because of online classes, then we might want to maximize yung yung sleep quality kung tawagin. So as much as possible, we follow yung mga sleep hygiene practices, set a regular bedtime routine, avoid yung mga caffeine, no? Kasi nga, yan rin po ay, number one, makaka-apekto sa sleep. Pangalawa, ay pwede rin siyang makadagdag dun sa symptoms of anxiety. So anything with caffeine, coffee, tea, yung mga carbonated beverages, di ba? So lahat ng yan ay nakakadagdag ng feelings of anxiety. And then, in terms of preventing mga mood disorders, yung idea po dito is iwasan natin yung mga processed and canned food. Kasi nga, sila rin po ay nakaka-contribute po. And even fatty food. Sabi nga nila, may mga studies comparing the American diet dun sa mga Mediterranean-based na mga diet. So, the less processed yung mga kinakain natin, the better it is for our mental well-being.
Mhm. Father Harps, sa
Ah,
spirituality naman.
sa spirituality naman siguro, Father, dapat ma-recognize una natin na alam mo yung work-oriented na mga kabataan, parang pag walang ginagawa, parang bored sila. Para bang kahit nga yung sa TikTok, 'di ba? Naisip nila yung bored in a house, no? Siguro with regards to spirituality, una, mahalaga din yung centering prayer, yung meditation. Kasi yung parang pagiging anxious, pagiging worried nila sa lahat ng mga bagay, sa palagay ko nakakatulong 'yon to mellow down, to focus and to give more priority dun sa mga essential themes ng pamilya nila, ng relationship nila, ng plano nila at mga pangarap, no? Siguro pangalawa yung devotions din, Father. Kasi maraming mga kabataan ngayon yung naghahanap ng debosyon na pwede nilang ibahagi, na pwede nilang i-live by. Halimbawa, yung maraming kabataan ngayon mahilig makinig ng mga Hillsong at mga inspirational songs. At I think that's a better way to calm down and to help you to remove that anxiety or depression or stress, no? Pero in a spiritual way. Well, sinasabi ko palagi na wag nating i-spiritualize lahat, no? We recognize and we ask and we seek for help ng mga specialists. Siguro yung pangatlong importante rin sa mga kabataan yung parang companion, kung hanap sila ng mga spiritual director or kahit kapwa nila kabataan na para bang kasamang magdasal, prayer warrior. As in that way, they can open their spiritual struggles, and at the same time, yung struggle na nila as bilang kabataan ay nakaka-relate din yung kapwa nila kabataan na nakikinig sa kanila. Yun lang, Father.
Doc RJ, yes, go ahead.
Siguro isang malaking role ng church rin, especially in these very difficult times, yung pag-maintain ng sense of community, no? Siguro kung hindi nila mahanap yun sa mga pamilya nila, siguro the church can actually provide that. Lalo na ngayon na parang sometimes may nasisense akong mga feeling of helplessness and hopelessness. Siguro isa ito sa mga pwedeng ibigay rin ng ating simbahan. And sabi nga ni Viktor Frankl, 'di ba? Suffering ceases to be suffering after we find meaning in it. And sa tingin ko, with the processing na ginagawa natin sa mga simbahan, sa mga baka hindi nga conscious yung iba na ginagawa na nila to pero baka meron tayong pagpoproseso na ginagawa sa mga communities natin. And it can actually help them find meaning dito sa kinakaharap po nating pandemic.
Doc RJ, how to control the cell phone from controlling you? How to control social media para hindi ka gigising ng madaling araw dahil may notification ka sa TikTok o may bagong follower ka sa Instagram or may private messenger, or how to control so that really it can help. But I think we all experience na pag hindi ka mag-ingat, ikaw ang nakokontrol, ikaw ang kinokontrol nito at unti-unti nawawala ka sa control, and all plans and all structure you try to put in your life pwedeng mawala dahil it really sucks your time from you. So what are the practical tips on how to control social media?
Well, of course, yung mga kabataan kasi minsan ginagamit rin nila yung social media to become updated, no, about news, about current events, about their friends. So, in a way, parang ingrained siya sa atin di ba? Pero I think we also need to be mindful dun sa effects niya sa atin, no? That it can actually take away hours of sleep, no? It can actually affect how you relate to other people. Tapos, yun nga, parang in terms of you controlling it, important talaga na alam mo kung ano yung effect niya sa'yo and how much time you spend on it. Kasi ngayon yung mga phones natin, some of them do have monitoring systems na pag sasabihin niya sa'yo, 9 hours of sleep, 9 hours of social media use.
Screen time.
Oo, yung mga screen time. Tapos it compares dun sa previous week. So yung mga ganun, pag alam natin, minsan masashock ka na lang. And mind you, the average na hours spent on social media is 9 hours and 45 minutes for Filipinos. So, sobrang average po yun ha. So baka merong mga mas malala pang gumamit ng social media ngayon. So yun po, pangalawa is to modify the environment. No? Ako personally, ginagawa ko, pag kunwari, kailangan ko mag-focus sa isang task, tina-turn off ko yung wifi. As in, ina-unplug ko siya. Kasi minsan pag kunwari, tabi mo lang yung phone mo, tapos nandiyan siya, hindi mo mapigilan. Tingin-tingin ka agad ng updates or pag tumunog, di ba? Pwedeng ganun po yung mangyari. So, tina-turn off ko yung yung switch ng wifi namin, or sometimes I turn off the notifications. So, kunwari, pag gabi na o kaya pag weekend, no, I usually do social media detox para parang magkaroon ng breathing space, no, between social media use. And I know of one person yung ginagawa niya paggabi, kasi minsan paggabi doon tayo madalas manood ng mga YouTube videos, di ba? Tapos tayo makatulog hanggang 3 a.m., mga ganyan. So, yung ginagawa niya is iniiwan niya yung phone niya doon sa kusina nila. Para pag mag-check siya ng updates, tatayo pa siya. So, yeah, when you actually make habits, you have to make the unhealthy habits unpleasurable, no? And very difficult to do para at least ma-control ko natin yung habits. No?
Can you expand about social media detox?
Yun po yung completely off social media. No? So you can do it by turning off your phone, you can do it by removing yung Wi-Fi connections mo. Pero siguro yung dyan is that you have to announce it, no? Kasi nga, minsan nag-worry rin yung mga tao pag hindi ka nila makontak or kung merong emergency, di ba? Isa yan sa mga concern. So, what I usually do is that I post it on social media na I'll be taking a social media detox, or kung sa email, di ba? May mga auto-reply naman ng mga email. So, you can put that. Tapos, you provide an alternative contact number for emergency purposes or may mga urgent work concern. So, yun po. Yun yung ginagawa ko during the weekend.
There is a question from Malu, Dog. For Harvey, can you...
Mula kay Malu, magandang hapon po, ask ko lang po kay Doktor kung nasaang level na ang ating bansa pagdating sa sinasabing mental health awareness. What do health professionals can offer to disseminate said awareness?
Well, ngayon po, kung pinasa natin yung batas, malaking part doon yung tinatawag na mental health promotion. So ngayon po ay kasama kami ng Department of Health sa pagka-craft ng mga key messages to be shared at pagka-cascade nito. Pero syempre ngayon, ginagawa na ng mga different civil society organizations yung basic mental health awareness. And siguro, yung in terms of what health professionals can offer, sa tingin ko nga, parang we have to probably educate a lot more health professionals. Kasi nga, if you would look at yung curriculum ngayon na, for example, medicine, hindi rin ganun ka-emphasized yung mental health and psychiatry. Kaya minsan, pag they just graduate as general practitioners, for example, hindi sila ganun ka-well-versed. So siguro dapat i-strengthen natin yung education sa kanila in terms of managing mental health conditions para maging accessible rin siya to everyone. So ngayon po, nagkakaroon din ng series of trainings ang DOH, no, for us to capacitate yung mga health professionals natin. And siguro rin siya, no, makatulong rin yung mga community-based organizations and religious groups, di ba? I remember sometime during the pandemic, parang tinap yung religious groups as a possible partner in terms of dissemination. And I think that's a very good proposal, no, na lahat tayo ay magkaroon ng contribution in terms of raising awareness and also, kumbaga, integrating it in all of the spaces that we engage in.
There is a question very interesting from Normalin, two parts. For me, students are aware of the concept of mental health. Ang problem po ngayon is when students are experiencing anxiety and depression, parents tend to deny. So yun, what can you tell to the parents where the kid, yung anak mismo ay nagsasabi, Mama, may depression po ako, kalimutan mo na yan, topag mo lang yan. Walang itulog mo lang yan o parang ganun. So they tend just to to disregard, yung parang walang kwenta, parang ano lang, kalimutan mo lang, kalungkutan lang yan. So, I agree with, actually I agree with Normalin. I think the young people are much more aware of what is mental health, and they're aware I need to see a professional. The problems are the parents. How can you, what can you say to the parents that are watching this?
Well, siguro po, I'd like to emphasize that mental health is real. And pangalawa is, hindi lang siya nag-uugat doon sa maling pagpapalaki kasi minsan takot rin yung parents in terms of facing the problem because baka masisi sila, no, based on how they reared up their children as they grow older. Pero yun nga po, it might help if you can present to them na ano siya, combination of different factors, hindi lang yung maling pagpapalaki, for example, yung nagiging cause. Kasi I know yung mga parents, syempre, actually have best intention, no, in terms of reaching out to their children, at minsan baka hindi lang din sila nagkaroon ng opportunity for them to have access, no, to mental health awareness or education activities, pero it doesn't make it less real, no, for the child. So siguro kailangan talaga natin i-accept kung ano man yung sinasabi ng anak natin, pakinggan muna siya bago tayo mag-react, no, kasi nga minsan yun talaga yung yung dahilan or yun yung isa sa mga paraan para mapagaan natin yung feeling ng mga kabataan. Kahit na hindi po tayo health professional, malaki ang role ng family support, malaki ang role ng pakikiisa sa kanila sa mga problema na kinakarap nila kasi baka hindi naman nila kailangan na referral agad to a psychiatrist, pero kailangan nila na makikinig sa kanila at tutulong sa kanila na magtukoy kung ano yung mga action steps doon sa mga problema nila. So malaking part dyan na hindi po tayo nagja-judge, no, bilang mga magulang. Kahit na siguro yung sinishare nila sa'yo ay something similar or napagdaanan natin in the past. So kailangan natin kilalanin na posibleng iba yung konteksto na ginagalawan natin dun sa ginagalawan nila para hindi rin po natin na-minimize yung concern ng mga kabataan. Kasi hindi natin alam talaga or hindi natin masabi kung paano naapektuhan ng isang tao base lang dun sa previous experience po natin.
Mm-hmm. There is an interesting comment, Pats, from Rufina.
Mula kay Rufina, yes, Pads, para po sa mga kabataan, advice ko lang po as parent, they need to interact socially, they need friends, physically friend, healthy, like what Dr. RJ said earlier, bawal uminom ng coffee, sleep early, then exercise daily, then spiritually, they must expose to friends na makakasama sa choir sa church, or dapat po ma-involve sila sa church with their family. Then emotionally, dapat din po as parent, wag po silang pagbawalan. If they have boyfriend or girlfriends, then mentally as parent. Ito na yung dulo.
Tama ho, no? Ano po yung suggestion dyan? I agree with Ate Rufina, actually, pinayagan yung anak na maka-boyfriend. And I think importante yan, part yan ng mental setup. Kumbaga, minsan kasi stress yun, no? So, bawal lumabas, bawal magkita mga kaibigan mo, bawal mag-boyfriend, bawal ng ganito. So, tapos magulat kung bakit yung tao ay nade-depress.
So tingin ko po iba-iba kasi yung di ba? Minsan yung may mga relationships tayo nung bata tayo na nakakatulong sa atin, meron namang mga hindi, no? So siguro dito rin pumapasok yung guidance from the parents on how to approach these kinds of relationships. Lalo na ngayong pandemya, parang ang hirap na mag-form ng deep relationships with other people, lalo na kung online lang natin na-meet ito. So of course hindi po sarado ang aking pananaw when it comes to forming relationships right now. Pero yun nga, kailangan po klaro rin, no? Ano ba yung mga ang pangit ng term, pero yung mga objectives natin in terms of forming relationships with other people.
So sabi ni Maricor, the critical role of listening, especially by the parents, is underscored in this discussion of mental health. Maraming salamat for the reminder. So how important is the listening role of parents in this context of mental health?
Very important kasi nga pag kunwari naglabas ng saloobin yung isang tao, napapagaan na talaga yung loob niya. So that applies from yung mga day-to-day concerns nila up to even suicide, no? So usually pag suicide po, isa yan sa mga naka-outline na steps as first aid. Tapos, syempre, kailangan po ng referral to a professional later on.
We bilang church, bilang simbahan, how do we contribute in as a community in this issue of mental health? And we as a simbahan, how do we contribute on the problem as contributors of the mental lack of health of people? So what can you see in the church, in the Filipino church, of positive things that nakakatulong sa komunidad on this issue, at ano nakikita mo mga negative things na nakakadagdag stress sa mga kabataan?
Siguro po malaking factor yung support na binibigay, no? So syempre, yung church isa yan sa mga malalapitan natin pag kunwari mabigat yung pinagdadaanan natin. Pero syempre, it's also dependent on how we approach them later on, 'di ba? So parang ano po yan for example, mga how we see guidance counselors, 'di ba? So they're known to be people who can provide support, pero kung hindi maganda yung experience ng bata when we reach out to them, it will affect how they seek services or even seek for help later on. So, kailangan yung mga people in the church should also undergo some form of mental health awareness para alam din nila yung mga responses that might be considered as invalidating, kasi isa po yan sa mga iiwasan natin Parang kailangan natin i-acknowledge yung feelings ng mga bata or kahit sino na lumalapit po sa atin without imposing kung ano yung mga dapat nilang paniwalaan or something. So we have to be open dun sa mga ganong conversations. And actually yung pagkakaroon ng kahit nga wala kang sabihin, kahit nasamahan mo lang siya, malaking bagay po yun. So yung isang term na na-encounter ko po sa community development na sobrang gustong-gusto ko ay yung tinatawag na kamanlalakbay. No? So mga kasama sa paglakbay. So yun yung term niya. Kasi minsan, as non-professionals, we have to understand that we also have limits in terms of providing support. So, kung hindi natin ma-cure sila or hindi natin sila mabigyan ng treatment because of our role and limitations, baka samahan na lang natin sila along the process of them seeking support. So, important rin talaga na alam natin ano yung mga things that we have expertise on at ano yung mga things na kailangan na natin i-refer sila or situations na kailangan natin ng tulong from other people.
Father, Doc, may additional lang ako na question doon sa isang nagtanong, no. What if a student is diagnosed with anxiety and depression, then the doctor recommended medicine, pero the parents declined na uminom ang gamot ng bata? Are there any other options? Ano bang pwede nating gawin dito sa ganitong case?
Well, of course, kung yung doctor po nila ay nag-prescribe ng medications, usually po siya, it's for a reason. No? Usually pag biological na, definitely, for some people, nakakatulong po talaga yung medications in terms of controlling yung symptoms. Pero, syempre, yung ibang mga options na pwede pong ilatag dyan is yung pagkakaroon ng consultation with a psychologist. So, yun po yung isang pwede nating i-explore, or even informal community support through guidance counselors or even family members and friends. Pero yun nga po, mas malaki talaga yung chance na mag-recover sila ng mas mabilis kung combined po yung tinatawag nating psychological support as well as medications. And siguro, kailangan nating i-dig deep, no, kung bakit ayaw nung parents na mag-take ng medications. Baka kasi dahil sa stigma, baka merong misinformation silang nakuha na pag nag-take ng medications, may mga permanent yan na maging effect. No? So, isa yan sa mga pangamba that we need to address. Pangalawa siguro ay yung issue of economics. No? Kasi nga, napakamahal naman mag-continue ng medications. Actually, yung budget nga natin ngayon per Filipino ay 5.95 per Filipino. Yung budget natin ngayon, kung titignan po natin yung deliberation sa Congress. Pero yung isang pill or para sa isang araw, sa isang gamot lang to, aabotin ng 30 to 40 pesos. So sobrang mahal po niya na i-continue. Tapos hindi naman hindi naman siya short term. Usually mga weeks or even months yung pag-take po ng mga gamot. Kaya baka kailangan din po natin maintindihan ano yung mga reasons kung bakit sila hesitant na magkuha ng or mag-take ng medications.
Dog, parte ka ng coalition na nag-fight for this mental health Republic Act law. Saan po tayo sa punto na medicine and also professional psychologists and psychiatrists will be available? Available in the sense na accessible, financially accessible, available in the sense that will be visibly accessible. Ibig sabihin, kung hindi sa barangay level, at least on the on municipal level, in the provinces, etc. Kasi sa ngayon, minsan malinaw na kailangan tumingin sa professional, but they are not nowhere to be found. Mahirap hanapin, mahirap bayaran ang kanilang consultation, at napakahirap bayaran ang medicines if you go into a psychiatry. So when are we expecting to see the law become grounded service in the communities? Are we expecting to see it?
Well, I remain hopeful that it will happen, no? Especially now na napakaraming mga civil society organizations pushing for it, at hindi naman natin maikakaila na mataas talagang demand ngayon. And even people without mental health conditions are already clamoring for a mental health law, especially kung for mental health services, especially kung pupunta po tayo sa mga barangay, sa mga school, sa mga workplaces, no? So, mataas na talaga yung demand niya, and it's actually gaining traction right now. Pero syempre po, medyo kasi masalimuot yung mental health situation natin. Wala talaga tayong adequate health human resource. Ang dami pa pong kailangan na set up in terms of mga benefit packages. Kasi syempre si PhilHealth po, siya yung main na mag-distribute ngayon ng services because of the Universal Healthcare Law. Pero yun nga po, alam naman natin may mga challenges yung PhilHealth ngayon. Tapos medyo
Very nice, very polite.
Challenges.
It has challenges, ninakaw ng malaki.
Ayun, so inaayos pa po yun. Tapos syempre yung additional challenge dyan, aside from the corruption issue, ay yung pagde-develop ng benefit packages. So I think PhilHealth now is studying yung possible things that can be compensated or can be covered by social health insurance. Tapos syempre yung pa rin po, yung really investing in the law, because right now we passed the law 2 years ago. We have the implementing rules and regulations. We already have the strategic plan. Pero kung hindi talaga siya mababudgetan, ay it's a law na wala pong pangil talaga. So it's important that we continue the conversation and really work with more organizations to demand for the realization of the law that we all fought for.
On mental or not only mental health, but when it comes to community, because I imagine you are studying community organizing for a purpose, no? So what is it that is lacking in our communities, or in the way we organize our communities in the Philippines vis-a-vis the health system? So what is it that you want to bring down into communities? Kaya siguro nag-aaral ka, tama bago?
Actually, opo, natumbok niyo siya actually. Well, after I graduated medicine, nag-focus po ako sa public health. So aside from the policy, may ilang mga engagements po in terms of making public health work. Pero one of my frustrations really is that yung health, it's not owned by the people. It's usually directed by the technical experts, yung mga doktor natin ko, nasasabi nila, yun yung mangyayari. And we all know yung problem doon na pag kunwari technical experts lang yung naririnig, it's not sometimes appropriate to the needs of the community. So what I want to happen sana po, and this is also the reason why I'm taking up community development, ay makatukoy yung mga community ng sarili nilang mga interventions. And I think dito rin talaga yung dapat maging focus ng prevention and even rehabilitation ng mga any other public health concern, no? So sa tingin ko po, dapat yung mga communities, they should be self-reliant in terms of identifying kung ano yung mga kaya nilang tugunan ng mga health issues, especially in terms of prevention. And baka kailangan rin nating i-democratize ang knowledge of medicine, na hindi lang mga doctor ang nagiging source of healing and treatment, but also the communities themselves. Kasi kung titignan po natin before, nung wala pang mga doktor, we have indigenous knowledge in terms of healing. May mga traditional practices po tayo. So I think we have to marry those and maximize those para at least yung community can kumbaga, address health problems on their own without congesting the health system. Of course, I recognize naman po na may mga kailangan tayong i-refer sa mga hospitals and everything. Pero minsan kasi pag yung first touch mo sa healthcare system ay hospitals, it means na hindi po effective ang ating community-based mental health or even health services.
Correct. Wow, thank you very much. Well, all the best, Doc. No, how young are you, Doc?
28 po this year.
28, like Father Harvey. No, Father Harvey, you are 20, 29. Wow, very good. There is hope, no? Plenty of hope for the country, no? Thank you for that. I hope, Doc, na ma-invite ka namin muli sa iba't ibang topics, especially about community medicine. I'm interested also about that, no? And when it comes to mental health, I think yung secret of the solution is in strengthening the communities. So maybe we can have a whole program about that, and how our communities can organize, what kind of activities, what kind of organization, what kind of structure we can put in our communities, down to the barangay, to the purok, so that we can really help each other. Kasi basically, trabaho natin ito ng lahat. Hindi po pwedeng ipasa ito sa Department of Health. I think yung kalusugan natin ay trabaho natin personal as individual, but also as communities. Importante na alagaan natin ang isa't isa. Okay, thank you so much for your time today, Doc RJ.
Thank you po. Thank you, Father Harvey, Father Luciano. And looking forward sa mga projects natin soon.
Wonderful. Father Harvey, if anyone needs counseling, what is the offer of the diocese?
Para sa ating mga kaparokya at ka-diocese, sa mga interesado, una po sa lahat, wala pong bayad ang ating ibino-offer na counseling at mga services sa mga gustong may makausap to be helped doon sa kanilang pinagdadaanan. Sa baba po ng ating screen ng ating Kalakbay Helpline. Ang number ay 0956-276-0413 at ang kanilang Facebook page ay Kalakbay. So, gusto ko rin gamitin ang pagkakataong ito to advertise and to endorse also yung official Facebook page, Doc, ng inyong organization. Yan ay ang Youth for Mental Health Coalition. Pakihanap at i-follow natin ito, lalo na maraming mga kabataan ang gustong makinig at maging matuto ng iba't iba pang mga concern ng about sa mental health at sa iba pang advocacy. Yan.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this great episode. Ang bilis ng panahon, kaya may part 2, Doc RJ. So, abangan ang iyong pagdalaw muli sa ating Taranawa Usap. Thank you very much. And mga kaibigan, see you next week for another episode. Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about what we can do. Let's remove the stigma and let's help each other. Let's be a family. Good afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye po. Ingat.